Hello, everyone, and welcome to Candid Conversations. I'm your host, April Williams, Outreach Manager for the Governor's Office of Minority Affairs. First of all, I want to say thank you all so much for making our first show, Breaking Through the Marketing Mayhem, such a huge hit. We've had over 200 views on our YouTube page, so keep watching. So glad that you decided to join us today for our Women's History Month edition as we discuss the art of failing up. You can join the conversation right here on the Google Plus platform at MD Goma on Twitter. That's MDGOMA on Twitter, or Governor's Office of Minority Affairs on Facebook. And be sure to use the hashtag Candid Conversations. Now, to our guest, Nicole Parker has been featured in numerous publications, such as the February issue of Essence magazine. It's a great read. You should pick it up. The Washington Business Journal and Black Enterprise, and that is only to name a few. And she is the recipient of numerous well-deserved awards. She is the CEO and founder of the Ellison Group, a full-service program and project management firm specializing in real estate support, construction, design, IT, facilities, and logistic management. Nicole Parker, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you coming all the way down to Baltimore City. You know, when I saw your story in Essence last month, I said we have to invite her to be a guest on this show. Your story, even though it was just a little tidbit in Essence, I said, you know, that's really what it takes to be a business owner. Now, can you tell us just a little bit about the Ellison Group? I'm really particularly interested in the name. I feel like names are always so important. It's so unique. Tell us a little bit about the origin behind it.
Actually, my husband gave me the idea of the name, the Ellison Group. It's Nicole spelled backwards, and he thought of a mini Oprah. And the biggest thing is because of hard work and work ethic from my parents as well as my grandparents, my grandfather who was an entrepreneur, and then just my integrity, what I value and what I believe things to be. I think that the name Ellison represents that.
So clearly there's something in a name, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So Nicole, talk to us just a little bit about the journey that led you to start the Ellison Group.
I think the biggest journey for me, having worked in a predominantly male-driven industry, my drive as a woman in the construction management industry, wanting to push or always hearing no, you know, you're a woman or you can't do it, or this is not for you. And for me, no stands for next opportunity. So it always gave me the drive to want to move up. And after leaving my last job and being denied promotion as a woman and carrying 70% of the salary there, of the contracts there, there was no way that I could continue doing that under someone. And I said it was time to start my own.
So how did you really know it was time? I mean, there's the emotional side of it, you know, I deserve more, but how did you know it was time? I know there's certain things that you have to put in place in order to start out on your own. How did you know it was really time to put all those pieces together?
You know, we don't always know everything as entrepreneurs. And again, at that last job, to be able to sit there with two males at the table to tell me that I've done a great job, but we're not going to give out the promotion for another 10 months because of funding or because of money. And I was that same person bringing those construction dollars in because I managed those contracts. It was sort of a slap in the face, and it shook me. I went home that day and spoke to my father, and I just said, I can't do it anymore. And it almost as if it took the fear away of saying, what have I been waiting for to start? So that very next day, I literally turned in my resignation.
Wow.
And I gave them 2 sheets of paper. One was my resignation. The second was my consulting offer as a consultant, because I knew that I was the one maintaining and bringing in those contracts. So no, the day before was next opportunity the second day.
So how do you feel it was, how important was it for you to move quickly on that instead of just kind of sitting around and saying, okay, I'll move in a year? How important was that? Because clearly you had a plan, in place. How important was it for you to move quickly on that?
I think it was very important. I had a plan, but not a written plan.
Okay.
I actually went out on faith doing that because they could have said no, but something inside me just said, step out on the ledge and go for it. You don't have anything to lose at this point. You've been in the industry for 14, 15 years. You have the relationships. You brought the relationships to this company.
Right.
And I just got a little tired of not being appreciated or respected. And I was the employee that went the extra mile, took the extra step. And almost a lot of my staff say, you have a different kind of drive, Nicole. You work, you multitask to the highest level,
right? And
you work hours at a time. And I was that same person as an employee with other companies because I value what I did, and I wanted to, I was focusing on being technically excellent and just learning.
Man, I really want us to spend more time on that. I know we have to move on, but I feel like that's such an important point, that you actually went in with the plan. You didn't just hand in your resignation letter. You didn't just get upset, because there are a lot of women who are out there who are in your same situation, who have been taking, whatever it may be for years, and they feel like I know that I have much more to offer, but what do I do about that? So I think that is so important, that you actually went in with a proposal for them to be your first client, and the fact that you stepped out on faith. I think that's the part of your story that stuck with me the most. So I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be blessed by that and appreciate that part, and really help to ignite something in them that maybe has been dormant, for some years. So, wow, that is so amazing. So you've been in business since 2007, right? Now we're getting into our topic here, the art of failing up. Now, would you say that you've had just a few failures along the way, a few things that you kind of want to take back?
Lots of failures, and I don't think I want to take any of them back. One of the things that I look at from a failure, you always learn from them, but again, you cannot procrastinate, or you cannot let them stop you. You have to learn from it. And some days I go home and I say, okay, this day was a hard day. I just have to lay down and remember to breathe, and breathe slowly. And in a day, the day is gone. It's only one day, it's gone. When you get to the next day, it's a new, fresh day.
You have new opportunities.
So, absolutely. And you have to take those lessons and learn from them and move forward. But there have been many failures along the way. I have a failure rule, and it comes from Michael Jordan. It's called the 93-26 rule. And in his book, he says he's had 9,000 missed shots, 300 game losses, and 26 shots that he should have made the game-winning point. But he learned from those, and he's extremely successful. So anytime I have a failure, I think about that, the 93-26 rule.
I love that rule, and it really helped me when I was in business, because one of the things, I was a huge Michael Jordan fan, I still am. One of the things that he said is that, he made so many shots after missing them because he knew what it was like to miss those shots. So he could adjust, and move forward. Now, I'm wondering if you feel comfortable talking about one particular pivotal experience, maybe that happened to you, a failure, what have you, that maybe changed the direction of your company and how you move forward?
Yes. In part, I'll talk about partnerships. One of my very first contracts that I actually brought to the table with a company that I knew very well, and I did not carefully set up my teaming agreement, which actually put me in a bind for my payments. And so it put me on one of those roads for failure. What do I do? How do I overcome that? And how do I get through that? And I'm a big believer in not burning any bridges. And so it's, how do you successfully work around that and then come out on top.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was actually going into the owner of the company and actually going into that contractor, which was DC government that we had the contract with, and let them know, yes, I had not adequately signed the proper teaming agreement that I should have signed,
Mm-hmm.
and renegotiate that. And the biggest lesson learned is, and I learned this from my attorney, that you can have everything is negotiable. Let me just say that.
Right.
Even when it's in black and white, don't think that it's the end of the day if you made that mistake. And so many businesses make those mistakes when they don't put documents together, or they don't sign the right documents, or they don't get the right people to read those documents that they don't understand. And that's very, very important. But everything is negotiable. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned. And you have to stand your ground.
Right. No, absolutely. So, one question. Do you feel like success can be ignited by failure? Can that ignite a fire?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think sometimes people, and I think I've received this over the last 3 years, a lot of people say, wow, how have you gone so far so fast? And it's been through failures that made me successful. And one of the things that inspired me, again, going back to Michael Jordan's book, so many people look at him and say, wow, he's successful, he's wonderful, but they don't know what happens in the dark.
Oh, they don't know what happens.
Yeah, and as an entrepreneur, one of the first things that I've learned is, we don't have the option of having bad days. We have to keep going.
You have to keep going.
Yes.
Because you have other clients.
Absolutely, and you have other things to maintain. One of the things, I'll tell you another thing that I looked at as a failure that I learned from is some of the things I didn't think that I signed up for in a company, or I didn't think about before, was managing as many employees that I thought that I would manage, or how often I had to review my finances, and I had those things set up, but the time and effort that it takes for them, I just didn't realize that because I had never owned a company before. And so these are lessons that I'm learning along the way, but it's putting the right people in the right place and having the right mentors. That's important.
Right. Mentorship is definitely very important. So tell me this, why do you think so many businesses are afraid of failure, getting to that inevitable roadblock? I mean, it's inevitable. It is going to happen. To what degree and what extent is, dependent upon that business owner. Why do you feel like there's so much fear when it comes to that?
I think, and I'll use the lessons that I've learned from failure. They are now challenges to me, and I get into them, or I get into that situation because they are the unknown. You don't know when failure's coming. You don't know when success is coming. You want success, but you don't want failure.
Good point.
But both of them, you're going to have both, but you don't know when they're coming. And so with that, there's two things I learned. Well, if I'm in the midst of failure, and I learned this from my pastor, I know that my breakthrough is about to come, but I don't know when.
You don't know when.
So the biggest thing with failure, and in any situation that you get in, people shut down because they're trying to solve the problem immediately. And again, there's only so many hours in a day. You take it one step at a time. You go back, you analyze it, and you look at it and you focus on it, and you solve it one step at a time. And that was one of the biggest fears that kept me from going out into the market and saying, well, I'm not large enough to bid on job X with the larger companies. I need to stay within a certain realm or a certain price point. I don't fear that anymore because they prepare just like I prepare. And the biggest thing is it's one step at a time. I don't worry about how I'm going to tackle the next thing because I have to get through the first thing first. And I think that's the biggest thing for people. They look at the entire failure or the entire task that they have to accomplish, but it takes steps to get through those tasks. And if you just break them down, you get to the end point.
No, that's so true, and I think it's so key what you said that, those larger companies have failures too.
Absolutely.
And like you said, they prepare just like you prepare.
Mhm.
They just may have more people,
Mhm.
more overhead, more clients, etc.
Mhm.
But they do the same. They sit down, brainstorm, just like small
Absolutely.
businesses brainstorm. I think that's so
And
key.
they regroup.
And they
Just like we
regroup.
do. We may
Absolutely.
be regrouping on our own, and I would say for small businesses, that's where your mentors come in, your
Right.
partnerships and your teaming relationships, where you regroup. Whereas with a large business,
Mhm.
they're internally doing it because they have so many people.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a very good point. So, okay, so you've had this failure and you're coming through it. Now, why is it so important to review the steps that led up to that particular failure?
So I'm going to give one example. At the end of the fiscal year, we won a $50 million contract, largest contract ever that I've worked on, coming from two large companies, two small, and then my own. And I followed this contract for 3 years and identified the teaming relationships a year and a half in advance.
Wow.
Yes. And there has been some failures in the first 6 months on this project. But through my past failures and taking it one step at a time, there are some things that I've been able to teach that agency or get that agency to change around and streamline things and do things more efficiently. And the biggest issue was, and this is something I had never gone through, because the contract was so large, there was a contracting authority that awarded the contract, and now there's one that's managing it. And so after several calls and not having a post-award conference, I just did my homework, followed up, and looked at all the people in acquisitions and took it upon myself to go down and meet with them, to take that drive 30 minutes away. And let me go in this office, let me shake hands, let me meet with them, let them know that, yes, I am a small business, but I'm interested in my contract. It's not just the
That
money
face to
first.
face.
It's the customer service and how I can maintain this contract for the next 5 years.
So it's reviewing the steps and then figuring out kind of where things went wrong.
Absolutely.
And then fixing, so that you don't get yourself in that same situation again.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing with contracts is that that failure could happen on the other side. I always make sure one of the first things I do when getting a contract during that first 30 days is to meet my contract specialist, develop that relationship, because what you're awarded in black and white, you want to make sure that's what you're supposed to provide.
Right.
And that's getting that extra understanding after that award and developing that relationship. And that's very key. And oftentimes companies don't do that. They start working, but they don't, really get into their contract and understanding who the person is maintaining that contract. And that's very key.
That is key. So you've kind of segued into our next question about bouncing back quickly and not staying in that, okay, I lost a client or my teaming agreement wasn't right. Why is it so important to really, if you, like my mentor Robert Wallace said, if you're going to fail fast.
Absolutely.
Don't stay there for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Get in there. Okay, I failed. Acknowledge it. Figure out where things happen. Why is that so important to figure that out fast?
The best example I can give you, and I go home and I talk to my husband, and we're recently married, but we've been together for several years. He always says, you use it as the NFL, a football team. And if you're failing and it's not working, you got to trade out. So, and you have to make sure that you remain relevant and that you're strategic in all that you do. And most important for me is I don't sacrifice my integrity, even when there's a situation, whether it's on our side or it may be on the opposite side, which is our client side.
Right. So talk a little bit about being patient and being diligent. Two terms that, small business owners, we don't really like that whole patience because it's about diligence, yes. But the whole gotta wait on it, wait for that breakthrough, like you said earlier, to come. Why is patience and diligence so important, when you are trying to bounce back from a failure, that you don't just go and break the situation all over again?
I think exercising both patience and diligence, whether you're in failure or whether you're growing the company and you're trying to, I say it's the S word and the F word, the success and the failure, you don't know when they're coming.
Right.
You have to exercise that patience and diligence all the time. And one of the things I had a client tell me, it's called, with persistence, you have to be pleasantly persistent because there are going to be people that are going to close doors.
Right.
Or not even open doors. And you're going to go through avenues. You're going to go down a road that you think it's going to keep going straight, and then it can go south or it can go north. And you have to exercise that patience and diligence because you're going to have to figure out how to get around it when you have to go south or it goes north. And I think that's very, very key in a business and all that you do, whether it's getting your contract, whether it's your finances, it's your employees and personnel, and then just maintaining the day-to-day operations of a business.
Right. So, Nicole, when do you know it's time to seek outside support?
I always say don't wait. So one of the things that I did, there are some things that I seeked outside support on because I thought I knew in my head this is what you need to run and operate a business, but there's always the unknown. And sometimes when you get in those situations and you know in your heart that you need to seek outside support, don't wait. And I think one of the biggest things for business owners is we wait until it's too late. When we need resources, when we need finances. And those things come in through partnerships and subcontracting and establishing the relationships early on so that when you get in that situation, you have those relationships that you can actually connect to. But don't wait on it. It's almost just like you said, when you have that failure and you got to fail fast, you have to move fast.
Right, that's absolutely true. So never giving up. Small business owners, you have to have that self-motivation. When no one else is around to cheer you on, you've got to cheer yourself on. So how do you really stay motivated and not give up? Yes, you can have that outside support, but some of those individuals are not always going to be there, and it's just going to be you and maybe your family. What are some of the things you can do to just, not give up and just keep going?
And sometimes not them. Sometimes it may just be you. And I've had tons of those days, more of those than not. And I think two of the biggest things I've learned, again, and I learned this from one of my mentors, and as I said earlier, some days I go home, there's probably 4 or 5 times a year I go home and I have to call it quits. And my brain just shuts off. And I have to go home and I tell my staff good night. I lay down and I get up, and the next day is a refreshed day. But one of the biggest keys that I go for, it's called HALT. So you have to halt when you're too hungry, too angry,
too hungry, it's just
too lonely, and too tired. And that's when you have to shut it down because you have to recharge your battery. You have to as an entrepreneur because you're always on the go, and things are going to come up. I mean, your schedule can be set for that week, and by the end of the week, it's a totally different schedule. And so those are the things that I've learned how to shift, when your road turns to the right or to the left, and learn how to halt when I need to stop. I think that's very important.
I like that, halt. And I know that, potential clients or current clients, are looking at small businesses, to see, how you're going to handle something. A potential client, may have heard about a situation, that perhaps, occurred, and maybe they're looking to see, how you are going to handle that. It's a lot, on your shoulders as a small business owner. But I always used to think to myself that if there were not those days when I didn't feel like going to push the broom, quote unquote, for someone else, and I'm not doing something right. Something is a facade of sorts, but you are going to have those days, and you will need to, like you said, halt. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
This has been a great discussion. I really feel like, we could go on for a lot longer and speak, on how to, the art of failing up. And you have given, so many great points, especially the Michael Jordan points. And so we really appreciate it. Now, we are moving into probably one of my favorite segments, and it is rapid fire. And so we're going to learn just a little bit more about Nicole with a few of these fun, quirky questions. Okay, so the first question, we have a few of them here. If you could choose one tool that best suits the personality of your business, what tool would that be? A hammer, a wrench, or
I would probably say a hard hat.
hard hat? I like that. What time of day do you feel most productive?
I'm a night owl.
Mm,
I've always been a person to hate mornings, but because I know I have to run a business, or I've had to get
right,
up to go to work, or I've had to raise my child, I have
right,
to get up, so that's mandatory.
right.
So I'm up by 6 and probably in bed by midnight.
Mm,
And that's something that I am working on and had to learn because in that halt stage,
mm,
because you do have to get your rest.
right,
So, but I've been known to work all night and been at the best of my peak at night
right, right. I understand that. Where do you find the most peace?
with family
Mm,
and just resting, just quiet time and just enjoying family. I think that's probably one of the things that I appreciate, have come to appreciate the most
mm,
since I've been an entrepreneur.
mhm. Awesome. Coffee or tea?
A little bit of both. It depends on the day. Coffee when I have a hectic day and I'm
Hmm.
running or presentations. Tea when I'm at my desk.
Gotcha. So what does your ideal day look like?
Well, let's talk about this morning. So I have a
Mm,
new grandson,
congratulations.
and I just came back from an 11-day travel. So I asked my son to bring him over. So he's been there for 2 days. And so this morning, makeup and feeding him. And kind of telling my son what to do, giving him pointers and his
Hmm.
girlfriend pointers,
Hmm.
and talking to clients on the phone.
Beautiful. Simple. I think it's
But
just
busy,
busy.
multitasking.
Right, right. That's awesome. What animal breast describes your company?
Ooh, animal.
She's looking over to her team.
I am. Um, I would say a stallion.
Mm,
Yeah.
beautiful, graceful,
Graceful
right,
motivation, the drive, the push as they
right,
trot and they
consistent
go.
there,
Yes,
right.
very consistent.
Hmm.
That's huge for me.
Mm,
Consistency.
I like that. Stallion.
Yes.
If you could do, last question, do anything else in the world other than running your company, what would it be?
It's funny you ask,
Mm,
because I've been thinking about this over the last year. The biggest success for me and my company is being able to give back.
mm,
I have a new foundation that I started.
I saw
It's
that.
the Nicole Parker Foundation, and it focuses on teen moms. I had my son in college and in tow, and it also focuses on African American males that grew up in single parent
Mm,
environments. So if I could go speak to the world globally, I would love to just to let them know uh, that you can do anything you want to.
mm,
And I enjoy speaking to other entrepreneurs that inspire to do it, that have less advantage than others,
mm.
as well as children and students.
Right. That's awesome.
So,
That is, it's simple, but having an organization of that nature, I used to work in nonprofits, and
okay,
how fulfilling, they can be. And I know that, there's a lot of people that will see this video, and they will say, okay, I see myself in that, and if she can do it, then clearly I can.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that is awesome. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
with us. We
Yes.
really appreciate it. I'm truly inspired by your story, and I'm so glad that my coworker, Lisa, I have to give her a shout out, found it in last month's issue of Essence. I do encourage you all to pick that up. We definitely look to all the other great things that will continue to happen, for your company. So to connect with Nicole Parker and the Ellison Group, go to ELOCENGROUP.com. There you can link to her on social media and review some of her great work. To connect with GOMA, you can log on to goma.maryland, all spelled out, .gov, on Twitter at MDGOMA, and on Facebook by searching Governor's Office of Minority Affairs. We would love to hear your feedback on potential future topics. We cannot say that we will be able to do them, but we'll try our best. So just send us a tweet at MDGOMA. Also, while you're on our website, again, be sure to click on that forecasting tab. This lets you know some of the recurring contracts for fiscal year 2014 if you are interested in doing business with the state of Maryland. Our next show, Candid Conversations, will be on April 17th at 1 p.m. So join us again. See you next time on Candid Conversations.